Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, we are doing our first best ball draft on the channel for the 2025 season. We are going to be drafting a Schanuzer here on Underdog, which is the $3 best ball draft that they've got going on right now. It is their one of their tournaments. So obviously everything that we're talking about is going to be, kind of directly having to do with this Underdog draft that we're going. But, I don't really know where the draft is going to take me. I don't really know how this is going to go because I'm doing it kind of live as we go on the channel. I'm not streaming this live on YouTube, but I am, kind of recording this live. So I don't know where the strategy discussion is going to go. I don't know what we're going to end up talking about, but everything is going to be organic. And this is our first draft of the season. So we're going to get off a lot of player takes and a lot of strategy discussion that we haven't really gotten to so far. So good news, the draft has filled on Underdog, and we do have pick number 2, which is very interesting. So as we go, I do have my rankings loaded into Underdog, so I'm going to be talking about some of those. If you would like access to those rankings, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Mike's Money Picks. We've got a full spreadsheet that I'm going to continue update throughout the summer that you can load in as your rankings. We're also going to do the same for the college football Underdog best ball drafts when they come out, and we're just going to kind of keep updating everything all summer long as we go, as well as the best ball stacking guide, which is just an easy one-stop shop tool to know who you can end up stack and where and what round, different stacks build off of, right? So we got the number 2 pick overall. Number 2 in my rankings, my favorite play here at the number 2 pick is going to be Bijan Robinson. No surprise, Jamar Chase was number 1. So I'm going to take Bijan number 2. I'm just, Bijan ahead of Saquon for me. With how everything's kind of shaping up this offseason and kind of the trends that you look at in fantasy football, it's very unlikely that a running back is RB1 in back-to-back seasons. That's not to say that Saquon can't do it, because Saquon is obviously a generationally talented running back in an elite offense that is going to be scoring a ton of points, but it's just not super likely that a running back repeats his RB1. You just don't see it very often at all. So I kind of think that there's going to be a little bit of a changing of the guard this year, and I'm going to go with Bijan Robinson. I think that if there is anybody who can replace Saquon Barkley as RB1, it will be Bijan, who is another generationally talented running back who is in a really good system in Atlanta. The offense should be better with Michael Penix Jr. at quarterback, which should give him plenty of opportunity to score some touchdowns and also catch the ball out of the backfield, which is something that Bijan excels at. Now, that brings up kind of, as this first round's going on, I really do find the end of the first round to be like a very interesting tipping point, because you can see that there are just a ton of options at the end of the first round that you can feel good about. And I really, this is a year where I don't mind picking at the end of the first round. I really don't. Last year, I really hated to have that number 12 pick. It felt like every number 12 pick was shoehorned into being a Jahmyr Gibbs, Marvin Harrison Jr. start, which if you took Gibbs, that would work out for you. But you really, the move at the end of the first round last year would have been to go like Gibbs Saquon for the start. Probably would have been like the best thing that you could have done. And just nobody was doing that. Nobody was taking RB there at the turn. But because one of the coolest parts about best ball drafts, right, is we're doing all these drafting now. We have all these rankings now. We don't know how the season's going to play out. But all we can do is we can, look at the data, look at the information that we have sitting in front of us, and try to build the best team possible based off of that. So looking at the board so far, I'm not going to go pick by pick. The first round went pretty much as expected. I would say the first 14 picks were really chalk, with Brock Bowers being the number 14 pick off the board. That's kind of how you see it ending up quite a lot. Now, the first really off the board pick here, we had a guy take Rashee Rice at the number 17th overall pick. I'm not a Rashee Rice guy. He is super low in my rankings. That's a guy that I just haven't taken once at all. I think he is significantly overpriced. That Chiefs offense is going to have Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown in it, and Rashee Rice is coming off of a major injury, as well as facing potential legal consequences. So I'm just not really into drafting Rashee Rice. And I thought that was an interesting pick that guy took him at pick number 17 overall. Now it's coming back to us at pick number 23. According to my rankings and according to ADP, Jonathan Taylor would be the best pick on the board, but I'm not really feeling that. Taylor just got taken. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead. I feel pretty comfortable with a lot of the receivers that are available to me right now. So I'm going to go ahead and fill the tight end position. I'm going to take Trey McBride here at the end of the second round. And what that does is that actually opens up a stack with Kyler Murray at the end of the 8th round, most likely, if he's able to fall to me. So I wouldn't mind double tapping Cardinals here and ending up with Marvin Harrison Jr., but I don't know. My rankings, I technically have Garrett Wilson ahead of Marvin Harrison. You know what? I haven't done this yet in a draft. So let's go ahead and double tap the Cardinals. Let's go ahead and take Marvin Harrison. And now I'm really kind of shoehorning myself into needing to take Kyler Murray at the end of the 8th round. So I just need to keep that in mind. But I end up with a very positionally balanced team so far where I have a running back, a wide receiver, and a tight end. So the good news with that setup is I don't have to worry about the tight end position for a long, long time. And the good news there is I kind of have the ability to kind of go running back or receiver. Like I really feel like when I start running back, or when I start wide receiver, I really feel like I have to catch up at the other positions. With this balanced start, I don't feel like I'm catching up at all. Now, let's go ahead and talk about kind of the picks that have happened since I've gone. So let's talk about the guy that had the number 1 overall pick. So the guy that had the number 1 overall pick took Jamar Chase, and then he got Bucky, Irving, and T. Higgins. So here's one thing that's very interesting with that to me is like that's going to be a super common start. Like just the start of taking Jamar Chase number 1 and then T. Higgins at the 2-3 turn is going to be super common. You're going to have to look to get different elsewhere, or like just really hope to nail the rest of your picks if that's the way you're going to be starting, because that's how everybody who is taking Jamar Chase number 1 overall is going to start. They're going to take T. Higgins in that turn. And I got to be honest, like T. Higgins, super touchdown dependent player. Yes, he was really good last year, but I'm just not 100% sold on him as like a 2-3 turn pick. Just like I'm really not sold on Joe Burrow as a 4 or 5 turn pick. I think that their ADP and their value is being inflated because of the people who want to take them in a stack with Jamar Chase number 1 overall. So every time I have had the Jamar Chase pick, I have had some where I started with T. Higgins at the end of the 2nd round or the start of the 3rd round, but I have tried to push Joe Burrow every single time, not taking him at pick 48, 49, because I just don't believe that's where his value's at. And as his ADP continues to slide over the summer, I think that it's a situation where, Burrow stacks that are built with Burrow in the 6th round are going to be there in all these tournaments. And I don't want to be behind if I end up doing that, because I do think that the receivers that are available at the end of the 4th round and the running backs that are available at the end of the 4th round are much better than the ones at the end of the 6th. Now, personally, as I'm looking here, like I really do like the 3rd round in these drafts. I feel like a lot of these guys are quite good plays and they're quite even. Like I would have been very happy with Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Like I would have been happy with any of those guys. And I also really like what this one guy's doing here. There's a guy that took Terry McLaurin in round 3 and he stacked him with Jaden Daniels at round 4, pretty much at or around ADP, not having to reach for either of them. I really do like that start. Now with where I'm looking, I've got pick 47. According to ADP, DJ Moore should be the play. I am going to be taking this independent of a quarterback stack because I do know that I have the stack for the Cardinals waiting on me. So I'm going to go ahead and take Cortland Sutton right here. Oh, I did not get it in time. I got Devontae Smith. Okay, that's fine. Well, let's go ahead and we can get Cortland Sutton back. I'm going to be interested to see if the guy takes Burrow here. Actually, I could take Hurts. I could go ahead and make it a Cardinals stack. You know what? We're going to do that. We're going to take Hurts, and we're going to be comfortable taking whatever wide receivers and running backs fall to us at the end of the 6th round. I'm going to go ahead and take Hurts. I'm going to make, because I already have these Bijan Cardinals teams. So you know what? We're going to go different. We're going to go Bijan and Hurts. And who knows? Maybe I could end up going still going Kyler and just making it a 2 QB build with like a bully quarterback situation. We'll see. But again, I'm in a situation now where I feel like I don't have to catch up at any positions. I've already got a guaranteed stack. I'm feeling pretty good. I will say if I had gotten Cortland Sutton there, I probably would have been a little I don't want to say happier, but if I gotten Cortland Sutton at pick 47, I certainly wouldn't have taken Hurts at 50, and maybe I could have had another one of these players here as we're going through. But hey, we'll see. Here's the cool thing about best ball is like it's all like a read and react game, right? Because you never know what the board is going to do. So now I've got the guaranteed stack with Hurts. I'm feeling okay about that, and I don't have to be dependent on Kyler Murray falling to me at the end of the 8th round because there's no guarantee that that's going to end up happening. Now, if we take a look at the board in general, this 5th round, this is another round where much like the 3rd round, I really do like it. Like I'm in a situation now where like I really like the 3rd and 5th rounds a lot more than the 4th and the 6th rounds. And what I mean by that is you just look at the receivers that you can get in round 3, talking about, Harrison, Wilson, McLaurin, JSN, Adams, right? Like they just seem to be so far ahead of like Worthy, McMillan, Williams, Metcalf, Pickens, Hunter, right? Like they just seem to be so far ahead to me of that group. So I really do think that, for that situation, picking in the middle of the round, being able to maybe even double tap 2 of those round 3 wide receivers is a situation that's super advantageous. And then I feel the same way in round 5. Like I like Sutton and Ridley a lot more than and I would throw Waddle in that group as well, a lot more than I like Flowers and Addison and Adunes and Jennings. And I will say Adunes is probably the guy with like the highest ceiling out of any of those guys that I said I disliked, because he does have now the Ben Johnson offense. He did have really good target metrics in the red zone in his time in Chicago. Just wasn't able to really, score a whole lot with it, and just not consistent in other areas of the field. Now, as we are in this 6th round, we're getting near the middle of the 6th here. Joe Burrow just went in the middle of the 6th. That's interesting. Totally unstacked. Yeah. So the guy that was attempting to push Burrow did not get his Bengals stack, unfortunately for him. Now, the end of the 6th, I really do like a lot of the players at the end of the 6th round. I love Jerry Jeudy this year. I love Deebo Samuel this year. And as I'm talking about him, they've been getting picked. So I do need 2 more picks to make it to me. Like I said, I'm going to be looking to probably go with a receiver, at least one receiver here. Yeah, at least one receiver here at this 6-7 turn. The guy I wanted was Jacoby Myers. So here's what I will do. Yeah, I'm going to kind of like make like a if-then plan here, right? I'm going to go ahead and take Ricky Pearsall here, who I really think has a lot of upside in that 49ers offense with Deebo Samuel no longer on the field. And then I've got my options between Olave and Montgomery. I do like both of them significant. Well, there went Olave. I do like, there went Montgomery. Holy crap. That was like the worst case scenario, was both of those guys get taken. So now, judging by my rankings, the pick is DeAndre Swift. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm very high on DeAndre Swift this year. And I don't understand what the hate is, because now we've passed the point in the offseason where the Bears can no longer add Nick Chubb. The Bears can no longer add J.K. Dobbins, right? It's going to be a backfield of DeAndre Swift and Roschon Johnson and maybe Kyle Monangai. And they've got now the Ben Johnson offense, right? And now if the whole if your concern on Swift is, he's never had a full workload. When he had Ben Johnson as his offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson always gave the rock to another guy. Like, okay, yeah, like if that's your contention, then you need to be taking Roschon Johnson and Kyle Monangai, because I think this is an offense that is going to score a lot of points. I think DeAndre Swift is a guy who can create explosive plays, can catch the ball out of the backfield, and I really think the arrow is trending upward, especially now that we know that they can't add another running back. So now I'm much higher on DeAndre Swift than a lot of these other 7th round running backs. And truth be told, running back to me this year, I think there is a cliff at the running back position. And I think it is a hard cliff, right? So looking at the ADP in my rankings, they both line up pretty much through running back 30. Brian Robinson Jr. is running back 30 by ADP. My running back 30 is Aaron Jones. I think there is a hard cliff after that. Like after those guys, you're really dealing with a whole lot of question marks at the running back position. Guys who are going to be in committees, guys who are in bad offenses, guys who are rookies with not great draft capital, second-year players with not great draft capital. So I really want to make sure I have 2, if not 3 running backs by that cliff of running back 30. As you can see for how it's set up in this draft for me, I'm only going to get 2 before that cliff, but it is because I took Jalen Hurts and Trey McBride. I am really strong at the onesie, quote unquote, positions of quarterback and tight end. And so I'm not going to get that 3rd strong running back, but I can find a way to get one down the board. I really like Travis Etienne further down the board. Maybe we'll get to talk about him in a little bit. We'll see. But yeah, now the running back cliff has been hit here in the middle of the 8th round as Brian Robinson Jr. is off the board. So according to my ranks, Kyler Murray should be the guy that I'm going to be taking here, which is interesting. This is an ugly range. Yeah, we're going to see how this falls to me. But you know what? I might double tap quarterback here and take Kyler Murray and be done with it, and have Hurts and Murray and just go bully quarterback. That might be my move here because I really don't like a whole lot of the running backs and receivers that I'm looking at. I just don't. Um, but you know what? Does the guy the guy at the turn does not have a quarterback yet, so it's conceivably possible that he might want to take Murray. So I am going to go Murray here, and I'm going to be. And this is a super unorthodox move. I don't generally advocate for taking two quarterbacks this early, but like I've got them both stacked up. They have different bye weeks, and I'm kind of. I don't want to say set, but I'm not behind at any of the other positions. Now I feel like I'm a little bit behind at receiver, so I do think I want to take a wide receiver here. Um, we'll see what this guy does at the true 8-9 turn. He took Mahomes. So, hey, maybe it's a good thing I took Murray. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe if I didn't take Murray, he might have saved me from myself and took Murray. But now I'm eyeing the wide receiver position. And by my rankings, and not by ADP, by my rankings, Trey Harris is the play. So I'm going to go Trey Harris. Just a guy who could be a wide receiver 1 or 2 in an offense that I think is on the upward trend. And he was really good at Ole Miss, particularly in man coverage. I've been high on Trey Harris throughout the draft process, and now as we get through to the regular season, I'm going to continue to be high on Trey Harris, and I like that offense. So yeah, we're gonna feel pretty good about Trey Harris. And now I've got myself a situation here where now looking towards the end of the draft, I'm good at quarterback. I don't even need to think about another quarterback. But when we get back to the next turn, I probably need running backs and receivers. That's going to be what my focus is going to end up being on. Now, what's interestingly enough is I know that I'm not live, so I know he didn't hear me. But the guy that was at the 8-9 turn, our buddy who took Jamar Chase and T. Higgins at the start of the draft, he took Travis Etienne at pick number 97. I was actually like about to tell you guys, like, I really like Travis Etienne this year. I feel like he's being written off because the Jaguars continue to draft running backs, but hey, Travis Etienne was a first-round running back, and Liam Cohen, who's coming over from Tampa Bay, in games, he was very content to ride one running back. Over the course of the season, Rachaad White and Bucky Irving both ended up with solid seasons, but in the middle of a game, you very much saw one guy handle the workload and one guy be the workhorse. So if Travis Etienne, if he's your third running back, like he's going to be able to give you individual games that are going to be useful because I think he has a very high weekly ceiling with how Liam Cohen is probably going to be running that offense. So I really do like Travis Etienne as a pick. Also, what's interesting as we get here near to the end of the round is as we look at my rankings, I am very high on like the 7 through 10 tight end. I'm talking Jonnu Smith, Mark Andrews, Evan Ingram, Colston Loveland. I like all of them. And I really think that I want to make sure I end up getting out of my draft with one of those, or even David Njoku. I would feel comfortable with Njoku as my number one tight end. And they kind of keep falling here down the board, which might have me regretting taking Trey McBride early if one of them makes it all the way back to me here at the 10th pick, because I don't think I want to double up on tight end this early. But all those guys, man, like I just really think that this is a good year to be taking kind of one of those late tight ends, like 7 through 10. I'm not as high on Tyler Warren as a lot of people are. I'm not super high on really any tight end after that. But I do think that getting one of those top 10 tight ends is a really solid move this year. I think all of them have a case for a lot of upside, or really, I guess, top 11, because I need to include David Njoku in that. All right. Now, as we go through the 10th round, we're continuing to see a run on running backs and tight ends, which is not a good thing for me sitting here with two running backs. Javonte Williams was going to be a guy that I was going to be targeting here at this, kind of 10-11 turn, but now he is off the board. Bashal Tuten, a guy that, much in that Jacksonville system, like Travis Etienne. Everything that I said about Travis Etienne could almost apply for Bashal Tuten, where he has a high weekly upside because of the fact that he is going to be in that offense that kind of prioritizes one running back at a time, right? So now I'm 2 picks away. Looking at the wide receivers available to me, that's going to be where I want to go here. I do not want to take a running back right here. I just don't. Yeah, I just don't. I don't like any of the running back options available to me, and it would be a colossal reach to do that. So I'm going to be taking wide receiver, it looks like. And the question is it going to come down to Shaheed or Bateman? Well, Shaheed just got taken. Ooh, I could actually make the argument for Jack Beck here. You know what? I'm going to go Bateman. Yeah, I'm going Bateman, and I'm feeling okay with that. So now the question will become here, do I want to go with one of these tight ends? Because, man, there's some value there. And I could really just be done with the tight end position by taking one here. Yeah, the fact that Hollywood Brown went, I don't. You know what? We're going to go Mark Andrews here. Kind of get a little bit of correlation with Bateman and feel pretty comfortable with that. And I've got a really strong quarterback and tight end room now. So like I don't need to worry about them at all the rest of the draft. I can just take running backs and wide receivers. And that's not a bad position to be in because now I can fire enough bullets that, one of the bullets is going to hit, right? Which is not a bad way to approach it. Now, it's not the optimal way probably, but we're just kind of doing what the draft presents to us, right? One thing that's really interesting is the fact that kind of the way I see the tight ends, this draft room kind of flipped, right? Whereas Andrews was still available to me, but yet after I took Andrews, Tyler Warren went right after with Njoku and Loveland still on the board, and I very much would have preferred Njoku and Loveland as opposed to Tyler Warren. Now, he was never a consideration for me at the 10-11 term, but I really do like Drake May this year. You just look at what he did last year. Pretty much when he started last year, he was a fringe starter quarterback. I believe he was QB 14 in fantasy points per game as a starter last year. And, that's kind of where he's being drafted right now. And he improved his offensive line, improved his receiving core, improved his offensive coordinator. Why are we not taking him higher? I don't know. So I think Drake May is a guy that I probably would have really been considering there if I already did not have Hurts and Murray. Like I said, I kind of pigeonholed myself at the quarterback and tight end positions that, yes, I'm very good at them, but B, I don't get to take a lot of these late round sleepers that I kind of like at those positions. So it's kind of, pros and cons there. But we're going to get to continue to target running backs and wide receivers. And really at this point, with having 2 running backs and 5 receivers, I'm really going to be swinging for upside. Right? Like I really want to see if I can pinpoint a wide receiver that is going to be able to give me a lot of spike weeks, right? And so what we look for that is, do they have a path to a lot of targets, or do they have a path to their offense scoring a lot of points? And I was I was kind of planning on it being Josh Palmer that I was going to mention, but Josh Palmer just got taken right there. So what I'm probably going to do right here is I'm going to take Rachaad White right here as long as he doesn't get taken. Yeah, I'm going to take Rachaad White. Like I said, it's an offense that they prioritize one running back at a time. So Rachaad White is probably going to give me some weeks where he's going to end up being pretty good. And now I'm in a situation where my 2 receivers that I really like right here, Christian Kirk is higher in my rankings, but I don't know. I think I'm going to disobey my rankings here. I really like Romeo Doubs and Cedric Tillman. Like Romeo Doubs is a guy that he's going to be playing a ton in that Green Bay offense. It's an offense that's going to be throwing a ton. He outsnapped Jaden Reed last year. He outsnapped Christian Watson last year. So this is a guy that's going to be out on the field a whole lot. And when you're out on the field a whole lot in a good offense, you tend to see the ball thrown your way a lot. And I feel Cedric Tillman is a guy that finished the season really strong last year, no matter who was throwing him the ball. And I think that you can make an argument that whether it's Shedeur Sanders or Joe Flacco, that it ends up being an upgrade at quarterback for Cleveland this year. So I could be like really just a kid in a candy store if Cedric Tillman ends up falling all the way back to me at the end of the 14th round, but we'll see if that ends up being the case. I would have more than happily taken him there in the 13th round if Romeo Doubs had gone at the turn. So we'll see if that ends up taking place. Now the running back position, though, is getting ugly fast, and I only got 3 of them, so I do need to make sure that I end up with 5 or 6, but like I said, we get a lot of bullets to throw, and hopefully one of them's going to hit. And they're probably going to have to be late round guys from the looks of it. If I did not have DeAndre Swift, I would be considering Roschon Johnson, but I already have DeAndre Swift. That's one thing that I have come full circle on in probably the 3 years since I've been drafting best ball. When I first started, I was all about, handcuff, get your running back handcuff. But now I'm like, no, because only one of them is going to be usable in a given week, right? Like if I take Swift and Johnson, I'm not going to end up using both of their scores in any given week. And in week 15, 16, 17, the playoffs of these tournaments, you want to have more options, right? Like you want to have more guys that you could potentially use their score of. And that's not going to be the case if you take both of them. Now, it might increase your floor over the course of a whole ceiling, but we don't play this game for floor. We play this game for ceiling, right? I think I misspoke there. Increase your floor over the course of a whole season, but not for any given week, right? Because last year, perfect example of we should be targeting ceiling, not floor. Last year, I had a very good year in terms of advance rate. I was like double the average, but I was like net negative at the end of the season because I didn't have a single team make the finals, and I did not have a good week 15, did not advance a whole lot of teams out of week 15. So we need to be making sure that we're targeting the highest weekly ceiling possible. So that way we can make sure that, if we do get out of our pod in the first 14 weeks, we can have a ceiling that's going to get us out of week 15, week 16, which I really like how I've done that with having the double elite quarterback, double elite tight end. They're going to give me one of them's going to give me a good score. It's quite likely that I'm going to get great scores from one of those two at both those positions. So now it's just firing enough live bullets. I know I keep using that phrase at the running back and the wide receiver positions. So that way one of them can end up hitting. So looking at what I've got coming back to me, I am in an interesting boat here. I'm going to end up doing something here that's going to look like a total reach, but I'm not going to be mad at myself about it. I'm going to take Will Shipley right here at the end of the 14th round. Like I said, I know that's a reach, but let's talk this through. So Will Shipley is the backup running back to Saquon Barkley. I did not take Saquon Barkley with the number 2 overall pick, which means that, therefore, that I probably don't think Saquon's going to have as good of a season as last year. What would cause him to not have as good of a season as last year? If he gets hurt. And so I'm kind of like doubling down on my fate of Saquon by taking Will Shipley. But also, if Saquon does get hurt, Will Shipley's an RB1 in one of the best offenses in football. He's a good pass catcher out of the backfield, and he's got a great offensive line blocking for him, great offensive scheme. Like, he's in an elite situation if something were to happen to Saquon. That's an example of a late round running back that has legitimate upside, right? And so now, here at 15-2, I'm going to go ahead and take Michael Wilson. Again, this is going to look like a reach, but what I'm doing is I'm continuing to build on that Arizona stack. Now I have, with Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson, and Trey McBride. That means that pretty much if Kyler Murray is having a good game, one of those 3 guys is going to end up going off. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. One of those guys is going to have themselves a really good game. Now, if I did not have the Arizona stack there, I would have really liked Jalen Noel. So if you guys watch my mock draft episode or listen to any of the pre-draft content that I did for drroto.com, go check them out if you have not already, by the way. I really like Jalen Noel. I really like both of these Iowa State receivers, Higgins and Noel, coming out. I just thought they were really productive. They really dominated the target share in that Iowa State offense that was really designed on just getting the 2 of them the football with limited quarterback play, in my opinion. And now they're both in Houston, right? They're going to be together back in the same roles. That's an offense that it has Nico Collins as their wide receiver 1, but after that, it's a whole lot of question marks. And I really think that both of them have a lot of upside. I think that Noel might end up actually outplaying Christian Kirk. I don't think that that's a bet that I would make even money because I do have Kirk ranked ahead of Noel. But I think that by the time the season ends, I think we could be looking at Jalen Noel as one of the best receivers. Well, maybe that's a stretch. We could be looking at him as a starting caliber wide receiver in fantasy football. All right, so let's kind of get a look back at the board here, right? So we're seeing a run on QB2s and tight end 2s, and the more that happens, the better that is for me because, like I said, I need to catch up at running back and wide receiver. And the more of those that I can get now, the better because I'm not taking any more quarterbacks or tight ends. A guy that was just taken that I'm really interested in, Diami Brown, now of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, like, when it comes to that Jaguars receiver room, I am like almost all out on Travis Hunter. It's weird, but like, I just have zero faith that he is going to be a full-time wide receiver who's also, by the way, competing for targets next to Brian Thomas Jr., who is really good. And I just don't like either of those situations for a guy that I've got to draft in like the late third, early fourth round. And so Travis Hunter's not going to be a full-time player. Dyami Brown probably is. And I think that that's kind of like one of those like conjunction bets that I think you could make is if you're not high on Hunter like I'm not, then I do think that that would allow you to, kind of have an inflated opinion of Dyami Brown and take him. Now, oh man, I was really looking to take Keenan Allen here at the end of the 16th round, but I'm going to go Jarquez Hunter. That's going to give me another running back. Again, kind of like what I was talking about with Tampa earlier, the Rams are an offense that they tend to build around one running back in a given week. And Kyren Williams has shown signs of, wearing down as the season goes on. He's not the biggest guy in the world. I do like Kyren Williams generally. I think he's a quality NFL player. I thought that he was going to be coming out of Notre Dame, and I'm glad that he's having a lot of success. But Jarquez Hunter is a guy that if anything were to happen to Kyren Williams, I think that he would step in and do well. Hunter really impressed me at Auburn last year, because you guys know I do a lot of college football content, a lot of college football DFS, and he's a good player. And I think that if he ends up being the RB1 there, that's a very profitable situation. Now I'm going to take here at the start of the 17th round, Tyler Lockett. So Tyler Lockett, basically is forgotten about now because the offense in Seattle last year was kind of a mess. He was banged up. He was in and out of the lineup, never fully healthy. And now he goes to Tennessee where, he's competing for targets against Calvin Ridley and a bunch of, replacement level players, if I'm being honest. I really liked Alec Ayamaner from Stanford coming out of college, but the Titans drafted Kamar Deke from Florida ahead of Ayamaner from Stanford. And what does that say about their opinion of Ayamaner, right? So I really think that Tyler Lockett is going to be able to secure one of those starting jobs for Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans offense on the outside. And Cam Ward likes to throw the ball deep down the field. We saw that in Miami. What does Tyler Lockett excel at? Catching passes deep down the field. So I think Tyler Lockett is a very high upside play here at the end of the draft at the wide receiver position. Now, one thing we're seeing here at the end of the rounds, we're seeing some very outside the box quarterback selections. Joe Milton, Daniel Jones have been taken. I'm not in the market of taking guys that I think are going to be backup quarterbacks. Daniel Jones, even if he ends up starting for Indianapolis, what's the upside there? I'd rather take Richardson. And yes, even though we know that Richardson is quite fragile, Anthony Richardson puts up a ton of fantasy points in games where he starts. If you're playing season-long fantasy, he is a guy that if he ends up on the waiver wire, you should consider picking him up or stashing him in your IR spot, because if he does start, he's a fantasy points machine because of how much he runs the football. All right, now I'm looking at a situation here where if I were to be looking quarterback, I do think that Jackson Dart and Tyler Shuck, if you need a QB3, are options. I think they're going to end up starting for their offenses. I don't think their offenses are going to be very good at all, but they're going to be starters. And if you're looking at the very end of the draft, it's odd that we have guys that are projected to start that are still available. I would rather have a Dart or a Shuck than a Kirk Cousins or a Russell Wilson, or, a guy that, even if he does start, what's the upside? These rookies, Dart and Shuck, you don't know what they are yet. I know I'm pretty confident Tyler Shuck's not going to be good, but if he's going to start, he's going to have a little bit of upside, right? We haven't seen him fail in the NFL yet. So maybe there's some upside there. All right, now, end of the draft. I get to take a running back or a wide receiver here. It's going to depend on what is available to me. I really did like Audric Estime before J.K. Dobbins signed for the Broncos. I really like Kyle Monangai if I do not have DeAndre Swift, but I'm looking at a bunch of running backs now that I just don't feel like I need. So I'm probably going to be looking receiver. And let's see what we got here. I have a lot of late round receiver takes, by the way, but I'm going to go ahead and take Amari Cooper. I don't know where he ends up. He's going to end up somewhere. And he's going to end up being that team's starting outside wide receiver. So I'm going to take Amari Cooper and hope that the upside turns my favor there. But there's a lot of late round receivers that I like, which is odd, right? I'm normally not that guy, but if you're punting at the end of a draft, and maybe punting is the wrong word, at the end of the draft, ADP is not what you need to be looking at. You need to be looking at the individual players and the situations that they're in. And for round 18, there's a ton of wide receivers that I think have a ton of upside. Like I said earlier, at these later rounds, I really want to swing for ceiling as opposed to floor. And you've got guys that have legitimate ceilings, like Anjay Oshavas. If Higgins or Chase gets hurt, that's instantly a top 20 fantasy wide receiver. Dontavian Wicks, if he could ever end up starting in Green Bay, could be a top 20 wide receiver. Alec Manor, we already mentioned him. If he ends up starting in Tennessee, he could be really good. Isaac Tisla, not the biggest fan of him at Arkansas, in my opinion, but if he ends up starting for Detroit on the outside as an explosive playmaker in one of the league's best offenses, a lot of upside. Roman Wilson in Pittsburgh, a lot of upside. Kayshon Boutte has been one of my favorite late-round wide receivers because he does project to start in New England. He did have a little rapport with Drake May at the end of the season, and I expect that offense to be improved. Elijah Moore in Buffalo, ton of upside. Savion Williams for Green Bay, this gadget playmaker, ton of upside. Torrey Horton, Seattle, could end up being their starting slot, and he'd have some upside there. Ty Felton from Minnesota. There's just all these guys that I could see having some upside there as round 18 wide receiver. And so I would probably much prefer to take a round 18 wide receiver than a round 18 running back, because like we talked about with the running backs, you're running into situations there where you're probably limiting yourself based off of who you already have on your roster and who is available to select. But anyway, that is going to do it for this draft, y'all. I'm curious to know, how do y'all think I did? I know I went a little bit outside the box with, the hammering elite quarterback and elite tight end early, and then picking up a second one quite early as well. But I'm curious to see, do you guys think that strategy is going to work? It's not a strategy I've done very often, but the cool thing about best ball is you do enough drafts, and you can only know that if you like something if you try it out, right? And so here in this $3 Schanuzer draft, I've tried a strategy that's a little bit outside the box. I've built out some good stacks. I'm interested to see if this is going to end up working out. But let me know what you guys think in the comments, right? This is our first best ball draft of the season, where we kind of talk through our strategy as we're drafting. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys get a little bit of information from it. Remember, if you want those full best ball ranks, which I'm going to be updating throughout the entire summer, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/MikesMoneyPicks. And then also you'll have access to the stacking guide as well, and the college football best ball ranks when those come out, because we're going to be doing a ton of college football best ball content. I very much enjoyed the Underdog did that last year. Going to be enjoying it again this year. Just can't wait for them to drop those contests so we can go ahead and get started with that content. But like I said, the only way you'll know when that content drops is if you are subscribed to the channel. And by the way, we are closing in on 1,000 subscribers. So if you have not subscribed already, please help me out. Help me get to my milestone of 1,000 subscribers. But that is going to do it for this episode, y'all. This is just our first draft of the season, but we're going to be doing plenty more. But like I said, the only way you'll know is if you're subscribed. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think of my team in the comments, or if there's any players you got questions about, whatever, let me know in the comments, right? But yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. Hopefully we're able to give you guys a little bit of entertainment and a little bit of information, and hopefully a little bit of fun. But anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point, and I will see you guys next time.